All right, continuing here with my episode 298 here because I know that there were a lot of people in the chat. So let me just um, plug myself in here again. Give people a moment to get back in here. For anyone listening on the well, you're not listening on the podcast because this one's not going to be uploaded to the podcast because I I'm gonna upload the other. I can only upload one thing to the podcast, so I'm gonna upload the longer live stream. But for the YouTube audience, you get a second live stream or a continuation of this episode here, because I know a lot of people had thoughts in the chat. So if you have questions, we'll kind of make this like a Q&A type thing here. If you had questions, put them in the chat. I lost a lot of the comments there. Um, how could I get that back? Maybe the live chat function will end up, or maybe the live chat function will work on if I go look at my YouTube. Yeah, that's not going to work. Okay. Just, yeah, if you have questions, you're in here, just put them in the chat. As you do that, I will go with, or I'll talk about some other things here that I wanted to hit on in the first live stream before my laptop was about to die. And because I do this in my garage, so I had to go get it from my house. Um, Sorry about that. So the Padres, they drafted a guy named Jose Lopez, or they took him. They didn't draft him. They took him from the Rays organization today in the Rule 5 draft. So what that means is Jose Lopez is going to be um, on the Padres roster. He'll be on the major league roster for the entire year. If he's not, he'll be back with the Rays. Like that's what the Rule 5 is. Um, So he's a reliever. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. He's 23 years old. Had a 2.43 ERA this past year, which is good. He was pitching for, I think, Durham Bulls. I think he pitched with 3 teams. Okay, he started this year at Advanced A, and then made it all the way up to Triple A. So he must have impressed the Rays a lot there in this minor league season. So I assume this must have been a very tough decision for the Rays to leave him unprotected, because you're allowed to protect a certain amount of guys. And so they left him unprotected and the Padres picked him up. So maybe this is the guy that they have on the roster instead of signing Craig Stammen back. Hopefully, right? And keep fingers crossed for that. Although it does seem that they're still interested in Stammen, or that's what the report was, the last report about Stammen. But maybe things have changed. I was kind of surprised that, when that alert popped up on my phone that um, the Padres had picked Jose Lopez in this Rule 5 draft. I didn't think they were going to even pick anyone, but they did. And when I look back on it, it did make sense because um, the Padres, like, they do need more relief help. That's what Preller was saying to the media. Like, he wanted another reliever, couple relievers. Uh, I just didn't know where they were going to get that. It doesn't seem like Pierce Johnson's going to return. And I would think that Jose Lopez is going to be a better option or he would be a better option for 2023 over Craig Stammen, right? Pretty much anyone is. So we'll see what he can do. I'm not going to sit here and talk for 20 minutes about Jose Lopez because that would be a waste of your time. That would be a waste of my time because I don't even know really much at all about Jose Lopez. I'm just starting to learn about him. So maybe once I learn more about him, we can talk more about him. But it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for me to start talking about a guy that I never heard of before today. Right. So that was the Rule 5 draft for the Padres. That was the only selection that they made. Anything else that I wanted to bring up today? I think those were the only Padres notes that I wanted to bring up, but I guess we can talk about some other moves around baseball as well because those moves do affect the Padres and who's available. So the Mets officially signed Verlander. I'm not going to talk about that. That just was official. I'm just going over some things that happened in Major League Baseball today. Red Sox signed Masataka Yoshida to a 5-year deal. This is kind of relevant to the Padres. The Padres, I think they were interested in Yoshida a little bit because I think Preller was asked about that by the media the other day because he just got posted, I think, and he was talking about him and like they'd done scouting on him and stuff. So I think there was interest there. So that's one less outfielder on the board. But the Red Sox gave him 5 years, $90 million. So that's kind of like a Seiya Suzuki thing. That feels like an overpay. I don't know a ton about Masataka Yoshida, but guy's never played in the big leagues before. Yeah, he seems like I mean, he's a Japanese star, but I'd be hesitant to, especially when your fan base wants you to bring back Xander Bogaerts, the guy that they're familiar with, a guy that's one of the best shortstops in baseball. You go out and you go spend $85 million on a guy that no one knows in Boston. I don't think that makes Red Sox fans very happy. Like, if the Red Sox, it's one of those things, like, if the Red Sox officially announce something on Twitter tomorrow, Red Sox signed Masataka Yoshida, you'll look at the comments and everything, all these fans will be like, sign it, go get Xander, bring Xander back. Like, that's all it's going to be. So, um, that's one less guy on the board for the Padres, but the Padres might have their eyes set. I hope they have their eyes set on grabbing Xander Bogaerts from the Red Sox, and it won't end up being a big deal because they'll move around, players on the team, on the roster, positionally, to make that work. The Mets added Jose Quintana today. That was something that happened. Obviously, yesterday you had Tyone to the Cubs. You had Tyone was like, it felt like the Cubs were like their only team interested. I saw a report that they were the only team that met with Tyone in person. What else happened today? I'm just looking at MLB trade rumors. Rockies and Cole Tucker agree to a minor league deal. Dodgers are not pursuing Carlos Correa. That was something that Ken Rosenthal reported in that article I mentioned in the previous live stream. And part of the reason why was because of the fans. Like, they wouldn't want Correa. I mean, yeah, I get that that's tough because 2017 and all that, but Correa is one of the best shortstops in baseball. They'd rather have Gavin Lux playing shortstop over Carlos Correa? Really? I find that hard to believe, but okay. You do you, Dodgers. I'm fine with that. I don't want to face Carlos Correa. White Sox are not planning to trade Tim Anderson. I don't think the Padres would have been interested in him, but that's something that's on here. What other signings happened today? I feel like I'm totally missing a signing. A's signed Aledmus Diaz. That's not what it was. Oh, I'm missing a couple. That's what it was. Wilson Contreras signed 5-year deal with the Cardinals. Duh. Red Sox signed Kenley Jansen. It was just pretty boring at the winter meetings today. That's why I was like, I'm like forgetting things that happened today because I'm obviously Padres focused, and they just were not as entertaining as they usually were. A lot of people were leaving because it was the last day, so it was kind of boring there today. So yeah, so Contreras to the Cardinals, 5 years, which is I wasn't really expecting Contreras to get 5 years, but 87.5 million. So he goes from the Cubs and he goes to the Cardinals. From the Cubs to the Cardinals. He'll know a bunch about the Cubs next season, right, as the Cardinals catcher. He probably should be able to help the Cardinals out too because of scouting and stuff, right? Knowing their weaknesses. Red Sox signed Kenley Jansen. That's another one where I think Red Sox fans were fine with Kenley Jansen, like it's a big name, right? But he's not who he used to be. But I think they're kind of like, okay, still bring back Xander. Come on. It's like the Yankees with Judge. Like that's all they care about until it happens or it doesn't happen, and then they'll be pissed off. Jansen, it's a 2-year deal. He'll be paid $16 million in each season, so $32 million in total. Red Sox have also brought in Chris Martin and Joely Rodriguez. Am I missing anything else from today? I feel like I am. Quintana to the Mets. Did I already say that? I think I already said that. Quintana to the Mets, 2-year deal. That's after they brought Verlander in. So now their rotation is Scherzer. I was about to say DeGrom. Scherzer, Verlander, Carrasco, Quintana, right? Those four. And then they need another starter probably. He's going to make $13 million a year. 2 years, $26 million. He'll be 34 in January, and he was really valuable by the Cardinals. All right, that's enough of Major League Baseball stuff from today. Let's finish off this live stream with your comments, your questions. I feel bad because that's on me. I had to end the first one. I could have kept it going, but for the podcast audience, that would have been weird to have a long delay, and they would have probably just turned it off anyway. So I just ended that and had a new one. But we had a bunch of people in there with a bunch of comments and questions that ended up not getting answered. So I feel bad about that. If there was someone in there that let them know that I'm live right now, and I will answer your questions. I don't anticipate this being like this, really high viewed stream or anything. This is just for people that were in that first stream that had questions, for you guys to ask those questions again. One here says, "Would you trade for Luzardo, Jesus Luzardo?" I would. I probably would too. I don't know what it would cost though. He's with Miami now, young starter. He was really hyped with the A's, and then was still kind of hyped with the Marlins. And was he hurt last year? It just doesn't seem like that. It. It just doesn't. He has not lived up to. I don't know. He hasn't lived up to the hype. It doesn't seem like in the big leagues. Let me look what he did this past year. Age 25, had a 3.32 ERA, 18 starts. So he must have got hurt somewhere, right? Yeah, he was on the 60-day IL at one point this year. Okay. He had a left forearm strain. So maybe I wouldn't trade for him. Huh. The Marlins probably don't want to give him up because they still think that he's controllable, he's young, they can get something out of him still. And the Marlins, obviously, they're not a team that goes and spends a bunch of money. Like that feels like a good guy that they want to keep, right? The Padres, I mean, when you're trying to win right now, a guy had a left forearm strain last year, that's probably not the guy you want to go trade for. So maybe I'd probably lean towards no, but if it's at the right price, I guess I'd be interested. It says Josh Bell hoping he makes a difference in Cleveland. Yeah, I hope so too. Nothing against him. Yeah, he struggled here, but he seems like a great guy. I just wasn't going to pay him for 3 years at how much did he get? What I say yesterday? Like, or is it's 2 years, my bad. 2 years, like 16.5 mil. I wasn't going to do that. If I was AJ Preller, I would not do that. That seems like an overpay for a guy that hit under 200 with the Padres. Sure, he can DH and switch hit and stuff, but there's cheaper options out there, or there's more expensive options out there, but they are much better offensive options, like Carlos Correa or Xander Bogaerts. I'd rather have Swanson over Bell and just move Crony to first and Kim to second, to be honest. Have Tatis in the outfield. Mike says the Mets are adding pitching, Phillies are adding pitching, Padres are adding what? Who knows? We'll see. The Padres went this winter meetings without making an addition, like a big addition. We thought they were going to add someone, right? A shortstop was going to come off the board. It did, but to the Phillies. And it wasn't the Padres' fault. They couldn't control that. Turner wanted to be with the Phillies. They did all they could. They offered him more money. Judge, they offered him more money, right? They just went elsewhere. So it's not the Padres' fault they didn't add anyone, like any big guy, but I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't expect Preller to make a significant move this winter meetings, and it didn't happen. Sometimes things just don't line up, and it seems like that's what happened at this winter meetings. Things just didn't line up. Hang on one second. Let me check Twitter again here. The Braves, did they just make a move? Yeah, they acquired Joe Jimenez from the Tigers. Okay, Preller speaking to the media, or he already has, my bad. So okay, now I remember. I remember where I was when that first live stream ended. My bad. So I was about to play audio from Preller that just came out from 97.3 The Fan. He was speaking to the media. And he was asked about Aaron Judge, obviously. So let me play that audio here.
Obviously, we took we took a meeting and sat down because we felt like we wanted to hear more and have him hear more about our situation. So, exactly how it played out. We never really got an opportunity to kind of find out a lot more. So I think from that standpoint, ultimately sat down, had a conversation, but he made a decision here early this morning to go back to the Yankees. Yeah.
All right, so they met with him. Obviously, Preller is saying that they wanted, to try to get in there, and they wanted to kind of wow him. Preller didn't say that, but that's kind of the impression I thought there, or that I got there, that the Padres wanted that chance to tell him more about their organization and try to make that really late push. But Judge made his mind up with the Yankees later that night. Hal Steinbrenner got in there and said, "Do you want to be a Yankee?" Judge said yes. And the Judge sweepstakes were over because the Yankees matched the Giants' 9-year, $360 offer, and that was good enough for Judge. The Yankees, they needed Judge back. I mean, it's good for baseball, I think, that Judge is a Yankee, because when the Yankees have that big name star player, that draws attention to baseball, right? Non-baseball fans, I mean, they'll probably watch baseball if the Yankees are on or if Aaron Judge is doing something great, right? When Aaron Judge was chasing the home run record, you had national shows talking about it, right? And part of it was because he was on the Yankees. Like that's good for baseball. Guys returning to their team in free agency is good for baseball. Movement's good for baseball as well, obviously. But guys staying on the Yankees, guys staying on those big teams, I think that's good for baseball as well, national interest wise, if that makes sense. The Padres, for those that are just tuning in for this second stream, I had to go get my charger, my laptop charger, because my laptop was about to die. So I ended that one. So I'm just starting another one because there was a bunch of people that had questions and comments. So I wanted to get to those. I wanted to give those people another opportunity to do so. Um, Now, what was I going to say about Judge? Uh, oh, my thoughts on Judge. I was I was not like pissed off that they lost Judge or they didn't get Judge because they did all they could do. They offered more money. He wanted to go back to the Yankees, and the narrative that the Padres can't sign anyone, people don't want to come to the Padres, like that narrative is a joke. Don't even pay attention to that narrative because Trey Turner, he always wanted to be with the Phillies. That was They were the favorites for Trey Turner at the beginning of the offseason. You know, the Padres, they just got in the Judge sweepstakes because they missed out on Turner, right? They weren't the favorites for Turner. They offered more money. They did all they could do, and he just decided elsewhere. They did all they could do once they lost out on Turner. They did all they could do to bring Judge in. They met with him to try to swoop in there. They offered him the most money. That's all they could do. They tried to tell him about the organization, but he was going back to the Yankees or he was going to sign with the Giants. I always thought he was going to go to the Yankees because Hal Steinbrenner was going to get in there and say, Brian Cashman, we cannot let him walk. That's not going to happen. So the Yankees get their guy. Good for them. And with the Padres here, it's not the end of the world. They do have a pretty good right fielder on the roster right now named Juan Soto. Uh, there's some other free agents available that can make this offseason pretty darn successful. Carlos Correa, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Rodon, Chris Bassett, Kodai Senga. There's names out there. And on the first live stream, I brought up how the Padres could improve this offseason, have a very successful offseason, even missing out on Judge and Turner. You brought back Suarez already, brought back Martinez. Those two moves were huge. What you could do, you offered $400 to Judge, spend that $400 on Carlos Correa for $300 million, and then you bring in Senga for $100 million, less than $100 million. It's probably going to be less, and Correa maybe a little more than 300 because Boris, he wants more than what Turner got, right, for his client. That's just the way he works. So that might drag on, to be honest. Who knows? But give Correa 300, 315, whatever it is. Senga 75, 80. That's 400 right there. You improve your offense with Correa. You improve your starting pitching with one of the best starting pitchers remaining on the market, right? You could bring Bassett in over Senga. Just replace that money. They could get similar contracts, I think. And with Correa, obviously, he is the best position player remaining, probably, I would say, right? He's better than Nimmo. He's better than Bogarts, I think. Better than Swanson. And obviously all the other outfielders, he's better than. Like, who would you rather have? Like, if you're having that conversation, Correa's the guy. Yeah, I mean, he's I think he's a I don't know about a really good fit, but he would make the offense a lot better, right? He's better than any first baseman out there. He's better than any left fielder out there on the free agent market. He's the best remaining position player, I think, because Judge and Turner are off the board. So you make your lineup better, you make your rotation better, which was the Padres' Achilles heel, or you could go Xander for 220 and Rodon. So the lesser shortstop or the cheaper shortstop and the best remaining starter. And so 220 for Xander, 180 for Rodon, like 6 years, 30 million if that's what it takes. And you improve your rotation, you improve your lineup. So you make your roster better as a whole instead of going all in on one guy and then not bringing in pitching or whatever. You're willing to spend 400, go bring in both. Go bring both in, if that makes sense. So that's pretty much what I hit on at in the first live stream, and then I was answering questions, and then I had to end it because I had to go get a charger. So let me get back to the chat here. Elite Topic says Carrasco is a free agent. Is he? I don't think so. Carrasco's on the he's on the Mets. You know what? I thought he was on the Mets. Carrasco contract. The Mets exercised Carrasco's option, so no, he's on the Mets. Mike believes Boston and Atlanta will get their shortstops back. Okay. If they do, then the Cubs probably won't be happy. The Giants fan base, I was talking about this on the first live stream. The Giants won't be happy, Giants fans, because they missed out on Judge and they missed out on shortstops. Well, they could get Correa. You're saying Boston, Atlanta, so Swanson and Bogart. So they could still get Correa if that happens. But let's say they don't get a shortstop, they're going to be the team probably most pissed off. Um, the Twins, they have Royce Lewis that can play there. They have Polanco, Arise, Miranda in their infield. But with the Giants, I mean, they're probably going to want Crawford gone after this season. They need a shortstop. And Farhan Zaidi at the GM meetings, if I can talk, he said that there's no player like outside of their range financially. So you didn't bring in Judge. You were willing to give him 360. You can't give 300 to Correa. Like that's what Giants fans are probably going to say. Thoughts on Nimmo as a left field target? I'd say no. I don't feel like spending $80 million on Brandon Nimmo. He's not the guy. He doesn't have like a consistent track record of staying healthy, and he's not a left fielder. He's a center fielder. And yeah, he'd be a pain at the top of the order, but you are getting Tatis back. And I'd rather have Correa or Bogarts. I'd rather have Swanson than Nimmo, to be honest. Some people might disagree with me, but in the first live stream, we were talking about how Swanson, he stays healthy. He's had a track record of staying healthy these last couple years, right? 162 games, 160 games, something around there, 25 home runs. Nimmo, let me fact check this. He just hasn't stayed healthy in his career. And the Rockies might be willing to overpay. We haven't really heard anything about Brandon Nimmo and his status. So who knows who's in it for him? Maybe the Mets still are. I don't know. But like he had a 5+ WAR season, so that's great. But 16 home runs doesn't blow you away. Trent can do that. I know he doesn't. He's not as good of a hitter as Brandon Nimmo. He doesn't have 130 OPS plus. But I'm just not sold on giving $80 million to the 30-year-old Brandon Nimmo when last year he played 151 games. But look at the years before that. 2021 played 92 games. 2019, 69 games. 2017, 69 games. 2018 was 140. I skipped over that. But he was still out there. Okay, he played 151 games. He hasn't played more than 140 games more than once in his career. I'm not giving $80 million to that guy. Especially in left field. He just doesn't, he's not a left fielder. Glendon asks, any news that the Padres are interested in Gallo? No, I haven't heard any news. I haven't really heard anything about Gallo, to be honest. Andres asks, did you hear anything about Wilson Contreras and the Padres' plan for next season? He's signed with the Cardinals. That was some of the news today. A 5-year deal with the Cardinals, so he is not available. Padres' plan for catcher next year is Nola and Campy right now. There was the report by AC, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. It was during this winter meetings that the Padres have expressed interest in Vasquez. They've talked about Austin Nola with other teams, so I guess he's available if they get Vasquez. But right now their plan is Nola and Campy. Dan asked about Hedgie. Oh, okay. No. That's all I'll say about that. No. I'm good with what we have. Andy says Correa is not worth $300 million. Well, I think Judge is not worth 400 million, but for the Padres to think that they could have got him, that's what they needed. They needed to give him more years. They needed to give him that much money. You can make the argument Judge isn't worth 360 for 9 years based on his health, and he's probably not going to age well. It might end up being like a Pools contract. But that was the price of the market, right? The Giants said it, or no, the Yankees kind of said it, but the Giants had him in for a visit, right? So we knew that the Giants were going to give him a competitive offer, a high offer, an offer higher than the Yankees at one point, which that's what it ended up being. They offered 360 at one point. Yankees were at 300. So the Yankees needed to pay at least 360. Like that's just sometimes a player might not be worth 300, but if you offer players contracts based on what they're worth, what you think they're worth, you're never going to get them. You're going to finish second place every time. If you want star players, you're going to have to overpay for them. That's just the way the market is. Someone's going to have to give Otani like 500 million next offseason if they want him, because that's what the market's going to be, because everyone's going to want him. SoCal Dude 949 says Padres don't need a superstar. Why not get some good veterans like Brantley on cheap and short deals? Those guys always get better too. I'm fine with getting Michael Brantley. Let's say they'll go get a big starting pitcher, and they sign Michael Brantley. They bring back Brandon Drury, maybe another bat there. Like that's not the end of the world, I don't think. You can have Kim play short, Tatis in the outfield, have Crony at second, Drury at first, bring a platoon in, have Michael Brantley. He can play some left as well. If you want Tatis to play some short or DH, like I'd be fine with that if they go bring in a starting pitcher. I think you improved your lineup. I'm a big fan of Brantley, and you're having Tatis back. That's an improvement over Kim or Profar if you don't bring back Profar. So I'd be fine with that. If they go get pitching, I'd be fine with that. If they don't get like a big starter and you bring in Brantley, bring in some other guys on cheap short deals, it wouldn't be a terrible offseason because I really like that they brought back Suarez and Martinez. But I think it would be a disappointment because of the big names that we're hearing, right? We're hearing they're interested in Senga. And obviously with Turner and Judge, we knew what happened there. We know what happened there. And they're interested in Bogarts, and they're probably interested to some degree in Correa. So it would be a disappointment if they landed like the additions that they make are 1 year, 2 year deals, right? That would be a disappointment probably. Oh, we got an absurd idea. All right. Says Soto first base. Yeah, that is pretty absurd. That's not as absurd as Tatis at first base, though. I'll say that because Soto's not great defensively in the outfield, and he's not as athletic as Tatis is. He doesn't have the range that Tatis has. I think Tatis has a better arm than Soto does as well. So it's not as absurd. But if you put Soto at first base, then what are you doing in the outfield? Judge is off the market. It'd be one thing if they got Judge and they're like, and Judge demanded to play right field or something. They put Tatis in left, have Soto play right, Crony at second, Kim at short, Manny at third. Like that would be one thing. But with Judge off the board, there's no outfielder that you get and say, okay, this guy's playing right field or left field, and we're having Tatis in the outfield and putting Soto at first. I just don't see that happening. That's pretty absurd. Like Soto's played the outfield his whole life, I think. Maybe I should do research on that. He's played the outfield his whole major league career. Luna says, let's get Peralta and Drury and Rodon. I'd be open to that. Have a righty in Drury, a lefty in Peralta. So the only thing is, though, Drury is good against lefties, not as good against righties. So I'd want a platoon there. So I'd want someone else. Maybe have Peralta being left. Okay. And obviously Rodon. Yeah, of course I want Rodon. Yeah, quarter pounder agrees. Yeah, Swanson over Nimmo. Yep, I agree. Boogeyman says Sean Murphy and Rodon. I'd be open to that, but what are you doing elsewhere? Murphy's the only move you're going to make. What are you doing in the outfield? And how are you going to get that deal done? The A's would probably want Merrill. You're willing to give up Merrill for Sean Murphy when you already have catchers and you need to fill other holes? I don't know. Sam asks, Ben, why won't anyone take our money? Look, again, there goes that narrative of no one wants to take our money. Don't believe that narrative. Don't buy into that narrative. That narrative is garbage. Um, Turner always wanted to go on the East Coast with the Phillies. His wife wanted that. Judge always wanted to be a Yankee. He was, I believe at least, he was using the Giants as leverage. He was using the Padres. I don't even know if he was using the Padres. It feels to me like the Padres just jumped in there and Judge didn't even ask for that. But he was like, hey, might as well take the meeting. Winter meetings are in San Diego. I mean, might as well. And according to Michael Kay, I was listening to his show as I was walking back to my house today from the winter meetings. And he was saying that a source told him that Judge was going from Tampa for the Bucks game to Hawaii. And he was like, for vacation. And he was like, why not just stop in San Diego? See what the Padres want to say, see if the Yankees want to meet. And it was like a 4-hour layover or something. And then he left. It was a short thing. And so they met. And the Yankees were like, all right, Padres, you are not getting Judge here. This is not going to happen. We're going to end this right here. And they gave him the 9 years that Judge wanted. Because there was that report going into the winter meetings that Judge wanted 9. The Yankees had 8 for 300. He wanted 9. They hadn't given him that yet. Not the Dodgers. The Giants had offered him, but he wanted to be on the Yankees. So he said, I want 9 years. Give me 9 years. And he got a deal. And that's what happened. Who should we address, or who should we get to address DH? I think, I mean, I like Michael Brantley. I like JD Martinez, but I don't think the Padres are too interested in JD Martinez. I'd be fine. I would love Michael Brantley, but I think there's going to be plenty of interest in him. Maybe it depends on who they get positionally. If they go get a shortstop, then maybe you go with the smaller 1-year guy. Maybe they go with the 1-year guy anyway. But maybe they bring back Brandon Drury to play first base if they don't get a shortstop, and you want a lefty to be a DH, so Brantley would fit there, right? What other DH guys are out there? I mean, Voit, Padre fans are going to mention him, right? I don't think that would be the end of the world, but that's not the Padres' top choice, definitely. What other DH candidates are out there? I mean, a lot of DH candidates can play first as well. So, like, I guess you could lump like Brandon Belt and Yuli Gurriel in there. I already said the other day, Yuli Gurriel, no thanks. The guy sucked last year. He's like 39. His OPS was like in the 600s, I think. No, thank you. Brandon Belt, he's getting up there as well. I just don't really see him in a Padre uniform. Brantley is like the first guy that comes to mind for DH. But the Padres, they probably don't want to sign a full-time DH. And Brantley wouldn't be a full-time DH, I don't think. He could play left field. He's not the best left fielder, but he could play it still. Mike says, has anyone ever asked AJ why he feels we need a different shortstop? I mean, I think AJ's answer to that is I don't think that we need a different shortstop. I think we need more talent on offense, and this is the way to do it. We're trying to win this year, and if he was telling the truth, and he wouldn't say this like open to the media, but his real answer is probably, because I want Carlos Correa. It's not really about the position that they play. It's more about we have versatile guys on the roster, and the first base market is not good. The left field market is not good. Carlos Correa is better than anyone available on the free agent market. Dansby Swanson's pretty dang good. Xander Bogaerts is pretty dang good. He's better than any other first base, left field, free agent option. So that's why. I don't think it's a shortstop. Like, if these guys were first baseman, well, they'd be better fits. Uh, what's another position that they don't need? If they were a third baseman, let's say these guys, Bogarts was a big time third baseman. Manny's at third. Okay, well then maybe they'd move Bogarts to second base, and you can move Cronenworth to first, and see if he's open to that. Like, they would make it work. Um, let's say Correa was a third baseman, then they'd see him. Correa, he obviously would be able to play shortstop, so they'd say, "Hey, Correa, you have interest in sliding over to short? Can we make this work here?" And maybe he'd be open to that if the Padres offered him the money, like if they were willing to give him the money. So they just want the best lineup out there, kind of like the NBA. Just get the best players out there, and then you'll figure it out when the time comes if you get those players. Jack says leave the DH open as a rest position and bring Myers back. They could platoon with Drury and Myers, but when a platoon happens, you usually want a righty and a lefty. So if you bring Myers back, you probably don't bring Drury back, or you bring Myers back as a bench guy and Drury is a starter, and you bring in a lefty to platoon with Drury. I don't think Myers comes back, but we have not heard anything about his market. Now, Judge just signed. Nimmo hasn't signed yet. Brantley hasn't signed. Profar hasn't signed. There's a lot of outfielders that have not signed deals. So we probably won't hear about Myers' market until those guys have made some decisions. So maybe we'll heal. Maybe we will hear about Myers' market after Christmas or just before Christmas. Give it some weeks, give it some time, and then maybe we'll hear more about Myers' market. Let me block that person. Yeah. What about the leprechaun Justin Turner? Yeah, I saw someone bring that up on Twitter today. No. Nope. I'm good. How old is Justin Turner right now? One, he's a Dodger, and so that would obviously not make Padre fans very happy. And he's out of his prime. The guy's 38. I mean, come on. In 2021, when he was an All-Star, isn't long ago, he hit 27 home runs in 87 games. I know he played less games this year, but he hit 13. Like, he played 26 less games. It's not like he played 40 games and 87 in 21 and like 40 games this year. He should have hit probably more than 13 home runs. But that's also kind of weird. 21 when he was an All-Star, 27 home runs, 87 RBIs. Less than half of that amount in 2022, but he had almost the same amount of RBIs, 81 RBIs, 87 RBIs in 21, 81 in this year. So that's it. He maybe he was a better overall hitter, or he was driving in runs. Well, obviously, he was driving in runs in other ways, but I'm good without Justin Turner. He'd probably try to make us lose. Sam asks, how much is Will going to get in this market? I have no idea. Haven't heard a thing about Will's market. I'm thinking like 7-8 million, but that's me just throwing a guess out there. I have no idea. Andres says, could you imagine Acuna, Soto, and Tatis all together? Not really, because I don't think that's realistic. The Braves aren't trading Acuna at a 10-year, $100 million contract. That's like the best contract in the league. Acuna's a superstar. They're not getting rid of him. And the Padres would have to give up a lot. I don't think they have what it takes to get Acuna, to be honest. They'd have to give up Merrill, and yeah, they'd be willing to do that for Acuna. But the Braves would then want Lesko as well. They'd want Grisham. I'm fine giving up Grisham, but they'd want probably Cronenworth as well. Like, are the Padres willing to do that? Yeah, I mean, that was something when we had nothing to talk about earlier this offseason. But no, I can't really imagine that because it's not realistic. Glendon says Aroldis Chapman. No thanks. He's another guy outside of his prime. And I did not like that he didn't even show up to those workouts for the postseason, before the postseason. He didn't have a guaranteed roster spot because he struggled with the Yankees this past year. So he just didn't show up. So, yeah, I'm good. I want someone that wants to be on the team, is focused on winning. He's a team player. And I think the Padres are pretty good bullpen wise. Maybe they make another relief addition, but they did get that Rule 5 guy today, Jose Lopez from the Rays. Seems like there are good things being said about him there. Oh, does my mic sound weird? No? Okay. I think it sounds better now. Yeah, Araldis, I'm good. I'll pass. I think the bullpen's in pretty good shape. Trade for Eloy and make him DH. I don't think the White Sox want to give up on Eloy Jimenez yet. They probably want him to have a strong year and not have to give up on him at all. Not even make that an option. He's 26. He still has multiple years of control. They don't want to do that. Anthony says, so you don't think that the Padres overpriced free agency so other West Coast teams didn't have a chance like the Dodgers have been doing for years? No, I don't think so. I think the Padres were genuinely interested in Trey Turner. They gave him more money than anyone. They were crushed. Like, it was a gut punch. I think Darren Smith was saying that the other day. It was a gut punch that they did not get Trey Turner. There was disappointment internally that they did not get Trey Turner. That was not to up the price for other West Coast teams. The Dodgers, they didn't even want Turner. Like, they weren't giving him anywhere close to 11 years. They weren't going to give him 7 or 8 years. I guess they're fine with Gavin Lux at shortstop. Like, I'm not even hearing them being involved in any of these shortstops available. So go ahead. I'd rather have face Gavin Lux than Correa or Bogarts or Turner. So you do you, Dodgers. And then with Judge, yeah, they offered more money to Judge, but the Giants were there too. Judge wanted to be a Yankee. I think the Padres were genuinely interested in Judge and Turner to answer that. I don't think that they didn't. I don't think they make fake bids of $342 million for Turner and 400 for Judge. You don't just throw around that number. Like, no, they're actually interested. They were really interested in those guys. Mitchie says, "What are our chances of landing Correa, Bogart, Senga, Rodon?" I think, who do we have the best chance to land out of those 4 names? I'd probably say Bogarts. Senga has a big market. Correa feels like the Twins want to go all out for him. Rodon will have a market. Yankees are being mentioned frequently there. So I'd say, I know this wasn't the question, but best chance of landing out of those 4 names, Correa, Bogarts, Senga, Rodon, I would say Bogarts. The chances of landing Correa, I'd still say are slim. But I said that about all the shortstops because it's a lot of money and there's just other competition. And the Padres, they don't need a shortstop. So I know they went all in for Turner, but we don't know if they love Correa as much as they did Turner. And I don't think they do. Or else we would know that they've offered Correa a bunch of money already, right? Because they would have pivoted right to him. Bogarts, it seems they're more interested in Bogarts than Correa, according to reports. So I'd give them a stronger chance with him. Senga, I'd probably give them the best chance to land him. Or not. Let me rephrase that. I'd give them a better chance to land Senga than Rodon. I'm not hearing the Padres connected to Rodon at all. Padres, we know they are interested in Senga. Ken Rosenthal was telling me that on Sunday, confirming that to me. So order of chances of landing them, probably Bogarts 1, Senga, Rodon, Correa. or maybe Correa in front of Rodon. I don't know. Maybe equal Correa and Rodon, the chances of those, but Bogaerts and Senga, I'd say, are the best chance there. Yeah, Sam, I think that's this question here. If we have all this money lying around, we are bound to sign more people, right? I think that's what a lot of people are thinking right now. Um, a lot of Padres fans, it's like, okay, they have 400 million. We know that's available. Go sign Rodon and Correa. Go sign Bogarts and Senga. Or I kind of mix that up. Go sign Correa and Senga. Go sign Xander and Rodon. You have the money, right? Go make your team the best complete team that you can. So yeah, I think they are bound to sign more people. I don't know. I think I'm probably setting my expectations too high when I say go get Correa and Senga or go get Xander and Rodon. Just because they offered 400 to Judge doesn't mean that they are, uh, required to spend $400 million the rest of this offseason. But it is available. And I'm sorry, the Padres fans, we're going to expect you to sign someone big when you're offering huge contracts to big players. Like, okay, just because you miss out on Turner and Judge, you're just not going to be interested in big players anymore? No. You don't have any interest in Carlos Correa? He's a pretty darn good player last time I checked. We know they have interest in Bogarts. We know they have interest in Senga. You don't think Gordon is a good player, a good pitcher? So, yeah, I think they are bound to sign more people. Um, I think they're bound to sign a big player, at least one. Good question here. Why do people keep clowning us for Judge not accepting 10 for 400? Annie Halbrun reported that they didn't even reach the final offer stage. Well, here's the thing. Nightingale reported that the Padres were willing, or that they offered 10 for 400. And then he wrote a new article today, like later in the day, saying that they didn't officially, it wasn't like a formal offer, but they made it known that they were willing to offer, they were willing to go to 400. So they were willing to give 400. And so people are clowning the Padres like, oh, Judge doesn't want to go to the Padres. He left like 40 million on the table. No. People are doing that because and I saw Giants fans doing that today because they're mad they didn't get Aaron Judge. That's why. They're just mad that Judge picked the Yankees. He wanted to be a Yankee. That's the end of the story. You shouldn't be other fans, they should not be clowning the Padres for not getting Judge. They put the best offer on the table out of all of the teams. They couldn't control what Judge did from there. Judge wanted to be a Yankee. He always wanted to be a Yankee when he hit free agency. He just wanted the value that he thinks that he's worth. He wanted 9 years, and he got it. Anthony asked, does Manny opt out of his contract if we don't win a pennant, or is a World Series what keeps him here? I think he could opt out even if they do. Even if they do win the World Series, he could opt out because he still wants more money, right? I mean, the free agent class next offseason is not good. It's Ohtani, it's Manny if he opts out, and then it's everyone else. I mean, I haven't looked at it like too in depth, but from what people have been saying, it's not strong. So I think Manny could opt out, but if I was a Padre fan, I wouldn't be scared of him opting out and going elsewhere because we have Peter Seidler as our owner. If he's going to offer $400 million to Judge the night that they just got into the bidding for him, after one meeting with him, they offer 400 or say that they're willing to give him 400. You think that they're willing to up Manny's AAV? They were willing to give Judge 40 a year. So, of course, they're going to be willing to give Manny 40 a year if that's what it takes because they know Manny. They know everything about him, the leader that he is, right? How important he is to the Padres. They're willing to give more than what Manny got to Judge the night that they met with him, the first time they met with him, I think, right? Because they weren't interested in him before because they were going after Trey Turner. So, yeah, they're with Seidler, he's easily willing to spend money. So I would not be worried about him opting out. If he opts out, he opts out because he wants more money. He deserves more money because of what the market is right now. If he has another MVP season, dude, he definitely deserves a raise. I think he stays though. That's not something I'd be worried about. It'll be a talking point probably, and I'll probably have to keep talking about it, but it's not something that I worry about because we have Peter Seidler as our owner. And Sam, I agree. I think Manny wants to stay here. I mean, they're contending, they're trying to win. What else does he want? Living in San Diego, pretty. It sounds pretty good to me. All right, I think that'll do it for this live stream. I was over an hour on the first one, about an hour here, so over 2 hours tonight. Thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Just talking Padres and Major League Baseball. Final day of the winter meetings was today. Padres did not make a big splash move, but they definitely tried to. Definitely tried to. It was out of their control. At least those two moves, Judge and Turner. So I expect a big splash to happen from the Padres based on how aggressive they have been this offseason. I'd be shocked if one does not happen. All right. I'll see you guys later. Maybe I'll have an episode, a show tomorrow, depending on what happens. But if I don't, I'll definitely be back the next day. All right. Go Padres. See ya.